90% of retail traders lose money. You've probably heard that statistic before. But here's the part nobody talks about. The other 10% are not smarter than you. They don't have a secret strategy. They don't have access to better data or faster execution. The single thing that separates them from the 90% has almost nothing to do with what they know about markets. And yet the entire trading education industry, every course, every mentor, every YouTube channel, keeps selling you more technical knowledge, as if that's the missing piece. It isn't. And deep down, if you've been in this long enough, you already know that. You've learned strategies that made sense. You've had trades that should have worked. You followed setups textbook perfect and still ended the month in the red. So if knowledge isn't the problem, what is? That's exactly what this video is about. Becoming profitable is not primarily about what you know. It's about who you are, and more specifically, who you are willing to become. If you've ever felt like you understand trading intellectually, but just can't make it work in real life, you are in exactly the right place. If you've ever had a great week followed by one catastrophic session that wiped it all out, and you sat there staring at your screen wondering what is wrong with you, this video was made for that exact feeling. Before we go further, if you believe the mind is the missing piece in your trading journey, hit that subscribe button right now. Because on this channel, Mind Over Markets, we go deep into the psychology behind trading, not the charts, not the indicators, but the human being sitting behind the screen. Subscribe, because this might be the most important work you ever do for your trading career. Now let's get into it. Let's talk about the hard truth. Most people come to trading with a very specific fantasy. They see screenshots of traders flipping small accounts into fortunes. They watch videos of people living nomadic lifestyles, trading from laptops on beaches, and they think, I want that. I just need to learn the right system. This fantasy is not wrong in itself. The desire for financial freedom is a beautiful and legitimate dream, but the fantasy becomes a trap the moment you believe that learning a system is all it takes. Because trading doesn't just test your knowledge of markets. It tests everything about you, every insecurity you carry about money, every pattern of avoidance you've developed over your lifetime, every relationship you have with failure, with risk, with uncertainty. All of it gets exposed under the microscope of the market, magnified and reflected back at you in real time, sometimes with devastating financial consequences. I remember the first time I truly understood this. I'd been studying trading for about 8 months. I knew chart patterns, support and resistance. I had a strategy that backtested well. I was ready. The first few weeks of live trading felt electric. Small gains, growing confidence. And then, slowly, something shifted. Trades that should have worked started failing. I started second-guessing myself. I started moving stop losses. I held losing positions too long because I just knew they would come back. I closed winning positions too early because I was afraid of giving back the gain. After one particularly brutal string of losses, I sat back and asked myself honestly, what is happening here? The strategy hadn't changed. The market hadn't changed. The only variable was me. And that was the moment I realized that all my technical knowledge was essentially useless if I couldn't manage the person operating the strategy. That was the beginning of my real education. What I've come to understand over years of trading and studying trading psychology is this. There are layers to becoming profitable. Most traders only ever work on the outermost layer. They polish their strategy endlessly, optimize entries, tweak take profit targets. All of that work is necessary. But underneath the strategy layer is the execution layer, the ability to actually follow the strategy when it counts. Underneath that is the emotional regulation layer, managing fear and greed in real time. Underneath that is the belief layer, what you actually believe about yourself and whether you deserve success. And at the very foundation is the identity layer, who you are as a person, how you handle uncertainty, whether you can sit with discomfort without running from it. Most traders never even know these layers exist. They stay on the surface, endlessly searching for a better strategy when the real problem is buried much deeper. And that is the first hard truth. The strategy is rarely the problem. You are the problem. And I say that with complete love and compassion, because once you understand that you are both the problem and the solution, everything changes. Now I want you to think about someone for a moment. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel found trading in his late 20s after a difficult period at work. Smart, disciplined in other areas of life, genuinely passionate about markets. He spent 6 months studying before placing a live trade. When he finally went live, he was careful, methodical. For the first 3 months, he was profitable. Small gains, but consistent. Then he had a losing month. Not catastrophic, just slightly in the red. And instead of accepting that as a normal part of trading, Daniel panicked. He abandoned the system that had been working and started looking for something better. The new strategy had a losing month too. So he switched again and again. This pattern continued for years. Daniel never gave any system enough time to prove itself because his psychological relationship with loss made losing months feel like evidence of failure, rather than just statistical variance. What Daniel was experiencing is called outcome bias combined with loss aversion. He was judging his strategy on short-term results rather than long-term expectancy, and his fear of further losses overrode his rational understanding of how trading actually works. Daniel is not unusual. Daniel is the majority of retail traders. The specific pattern might differ. Maybe for you it's not strategy hopping, maybe it's overtrading or holding losers too long, or going all in after a win, but the underlying mechanism is almost always the same. The unmanaged emotions driving behavior that sabotages the very results you're trying to create. If you recognize yourself in Daniel's story, comment the word Daniel right now. You are not alone. More people than you think are going to comment that same word. Now let's talk about why this happens. Because it's not weakness of character, it's biology. It's a very specific set of cognitive biases that the human brain developed over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, a period when the environment was not the financial markets. When a human being faces an uncertain outcome, the brain treats it like a physical threat. The amygdala activates. Stress hormones flood the body. Decision-making shifts away from the rational prefrontal cortex and toward more reactive processing. This is the fight, flight, or freeze response. Yet it was brilliant for escaping predators on the savannah. It is absolutely devastating in a trading account. Think about what happens when you enter a trade and it starts moving against you. The position is showing a loss. The brain reads danger. Suddenly your ability to think clearly, reason logically, follow your pre-planned rules, all of that is compromised. In this state, many traders make one of two irrational choices. They either panic and close immediately, taking a loss they shouldn't have taken, sometimes just seconds before the market reverses, or they freeze, paralyzed by the fear of realizing the loss, holding it way past any rational stop-loss level until the damage is genuinely painful. Neither response has anything to do with trading strategy. Both are pure evolutionary psychology. Both are your ancient brain trying to protect you using tools completely mismatched to the actual situation. And here's what makes this even more complicated. The market doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't know you exist. It's not conspiring against you. It just moves according to the collective behavior of millions of participants, each with their own biases and positions. In the face of all of that, you're completely powerless over where price goes next. The only thing you can control is how you respond to what price does. And if you haven't trained your responses, if you haven't built the psychological infrastructure to handle uncertainty with discipline, your biological defaults will take over every single time. This is why I always say, you don't need to control the market. You need to control yourself. Yeah, if this is making sense to you, if you're starting to feel like this is the conversation you've been missing in your trading education, please like this video right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more traders who need to hear this message. Hit the like button, and let's keep going. Let me introduce you to a concept I call the competence gap. There are two levels of competence. The first is conceptual competence, knowing the rules. The second is behavioral competence, following the rules under pressure. Most traders develop reasonable conceptual competence. They know they should cut losses short. They know they shouldn't revenge trade. They know they shouldn't risk more than a certain percentage per trade. They know all of this. They could write a book about it. And then the market opens and they break every single rule within minutes. This gap between what you know you should do and what you actually do, this is the competence gap. And it is the most important thing you need to close if you want to be profitable. Closing it requires something most traders are deeply uncomfortable with: honest self-examination, not of your strategy's behavior, of your behavior. After every trading session, ask yourself, did I follow my entry criteria exactly? Or did I rush in early? Did I place my stop at the level my strategy dictated? Or did I widen it? Did I take profit at my target? Or did I hold on hoping for more and give it back? Did I skip valid setups because I was afraid after a recent loss? Did I take trades that didn't meet my criteria because I was bored or felt I needed to recover a loss? These questions are not comfortable. That is exactly why most traders never ask them, but the answers contain everything you need to know about what is really limiting your performance. Here's something personal. There was a period in my trading, about 2 years in, where I was technically good enough to be profitable. Solid strategy, sound risk management in theory, good analysis, but my results were completely inconsistent. Some weeks excellent, others inexplicably terrible. I couldn't figure out why. So I started keeping an emotional journal alongside my trading journal. Not just the trade data, but how I felt before the trade, during it, and after it closed. What I discovered was deeply uncomfortable. My worst trades almost always happened in specific emotional states. I traded best when I was calm, detached, and with no particular need for the trade to win. I traded worst when I was stressed about money or coming off a loss with something to prove. Once I could see the pattern clearly, I could build systems around it. If I'm in this emotional state, I do not trade. I wait. That single decision improved my performance more than any strategy adjustment I'd ever made. Because the problem was never the strategy. The problem was what I was bringing to the execution of it. Now here's something I need to address directly. Many of you will think, isn't this just about discipline? If I just had more discipline, wouldn't all of this be solved? The answer is both yes and no. Discipline matters. But discipline applied wrongly can actually make things worse. Many traders, when they decide to be more disciplined, try to force themselves to follow rules they haven't truly internalized, trying to override emotion through willpower. And willpower is a finite resource. It depletes. You cannot white-knuckle your way to consistent execution over years of trading. The traders who are consistently profitable are not the ones with the most willpower. They are the ones who have built systems, habits, and psychological frameworks that make the right behavior the path of least resistance. They are not fighting themselves every day. They have restructured their inner environment so that following the rules feels natural rather than effortful. The goal is not to discipline yourself into trading well. The goal is to transform yourself so deeply that trading well is simply an expression of who you are. Think about it this way. An honest person doesn't try hard not to lie, it's just who they are. A fit person doesn't force themselves to eat well every single day. It's part of their identity. The goal in trading psychology is to reach a similar place, where following your rules, managing your risk, trusting your process, these are not acts of willpower, they are expressions of who you are. Getting there requires intentional psychological work. It requires examining your beliefs about money, understanding your emotional triggers, building journaling and reflection practices, developing emotional intelligence over time, and above all, it requires patience. Which brings me to the hardest truth of all. Becoming a consistently profitable trader takes significantly longer than most people expect. I'm going to say something some of you won't want to hear. Yeah, based on my experience and the experiences of countless traders I've studied and spoken with, the average realistic timeline to genuine consistency is somewhere between 3 and 5 years of dedicated, deliberate practice. Some people get there faster, some take longer, but 3 to 5 years is far more realistic than the 3 to 5 months the industry implicitly promises. Why so long? Not because trading is technically impossible. The technical skills can be learned in months. The reason is that becoming consistently profitable requires you to develop a fundamentally different relationship with uncertainty than most human beings have. It requires you to become comfortable with not knowing, to be okay with losing, to detach your self-worth from your trade outcomes, to develop emotional regulation that most people spend their whole lives never developing. These are not skills you learn in a weekend. They are character traits you build over years of practice, reflection, failure, and growth. Share this video right now with someone in your life who is struggling with trading, pouring money into strategies, and still not getting results. This is the conversation they need to have. Because what they probably haven't heard yet is that the real work is psychological, not technical. Share it. It could genuinely change their path. Let me talk about a trader I'll call Marcus. I met him at a seminar years ago, 6 months into his journey. Enthusiastic, confident. We stayed in touch over the years, and watching his path has been one of the most instructive experiences of my own education. In his first year, Marcus was all strategy, consuming content in chat rooms, watching every tick. He was also losing money, but convinced the next strategy would fix it. In his second year, he blew his third account and called me in a genuinely dark place. He said, "I feel like the market can sense when I'm in a trade and immediately goes against me." I told him, "The market isn't against you, but your own psychology is working against you. And until you address that, no strategy in the world will save you." Marcus took that seriously. He stopped consuming strategy content for 3 months. He read trading psychology books. He started journaling. He worked with a coach. He started meditating. Slowly, very slowly, things began to change. Not his win rate, not his strategy, but his internal response to what the market did. He became calmer. He became less reactive. He started following his rules more consistently. By year 3, he was breaking even with occasional profitable months. By year 4, consistently profitable. Today, he manages his own money full-time and is one of the most psychologically grounded traders I know. When I ask what changed, he always says the same thing. I stopped trying to conquer the market. I started trying to conquer myself. That journey is available to every single one of you, but it requires you to embrace the timeline, to stop expecting profitability in months when the real work takes years. Now let's get practical. I want to give you concrete principles, not a 5-step formula, because anyone promising that is selling something that doesn't work, but real principles that, applied consistently, will genuinely accelerate your growth. The first is radical honesty. You cannot fix what you will not acknowledge. Most traders spend enormous energy on self-deception. The loss was bad luck. The market was unusual. The broker was against them. Honest traders ask first, where did I deviate from my process? What am I unwilling to see about my own behavior right now? Radical honesty is uncomfortable. It is also the foundation of every meaningful improvement. The second is process focus over outcome focus. Here's something most beginners find deeply counterintuitive. A good trade can lose money. A bad trade can make money. What makes a trade good or bad is not the outcome. It's whether you followed your process correctly. If you followed all your rules and it lost, that is a good trade that lost. If you broke your rules and it happened to win, that is a bad trade that won. And it's actually more dangerous because it reinforces the wrong behavior. Shifting to process focus is one of the hardest psychological transitions in trading. Train yourself to evaluate your performance by the quality of your behavior, not the quality of your results. The third is emotional awareness before emotional management. Before you can manage emotions in a trade, you need to recognize them in real time. Before you place a trade, before you move a stop, before you close early, pause. What am I feeling right now? Is this decision coming from my trading plan or from an emotional state I haven't acknowledged? That single pause can be the difference between a disciplined decision and a catastrophic impulse. The fourth is working with your nature, not against it. Every trader has a psychological profile. Some people are naturally patient, others are more decisive. Some do better with frequent small trades, others with fewer, larger setups. Part of your job is to deeply understand your own tendencies and build an approach that aligns with who you actually are, not who you think you should be. Trying to be a patient swing trader when your natural disposition makes you anxious holding overnight is swimming upstream. Find the style that fits your psychology. The fifth is a pre-market routine. Before the market opens, before you're exposed to price action and its emotional triggers, you have a window to deliberately set your mindset. Review your trading rules. Journal briefly about your current emotional state. Set clear intentions for the day. Remind yourself of your process before you think about any specific trade. The specific activity matters less than the intention. You are deliberately cultivating a psychological state before you enter the arena. And the sixth, and perhaps the most important data, is accepting that loss is not failure. Loss is a cost of doing business. every profitable strategy in the world loses on a significant percentage of its trades. Loss is not evidence you're doing something wrong. Loss is not punishment for mistakes. Loss is simply the statistical reality of operating in uncertain markets with imperfect information. When you internalize this on a deep emotional level, when you stop fighting losses and start simply managing them, something fundamental changes in how you trade. You follow your rules. You take your losses when they come. You trust the long-term edge of your process. That is what profitable trading actually looks like from the inside. If something in this video has shifted something in you today, if you've had a moment of recognition, that flash of, yes, that's exactly what I do, I want to hear about it. Comment below and tell me one specific pattern you've recognized in yourself. Just one. Because naming it, putting it in words, that is part of the process of changing it. I want to close with this. The hard truth about becoming a profitable trader is not that it's too difficult or that it requires some special talent you might not have. The hard truth is that it requires you to become someone you are not yet. It requires real change, not surface-level behavioral tweaks, but genuine psychological transformation. And it requires honesty that most people avoid. It requires a timeline most people are unwilling to commit to. It requires working on yourself in ways that most traders never even think to apply to their trading. That is the hard truth. And it is simultaneously the most challenging thing I can tell you and the most empowering. Because it means the thing standing between you and consistent profitability is not a better indicator, not a secret strategy, not some insider knowledge. It is you. And you are the one thing in this entire equation that you have complete power to change. You are not a bad trader who keeps making mistakes. You are a developing trader who hasn't yet built the psychological infrastructure that consistent profitability requires. That is a completely different thing. One is a judgment. The other is a stage of a journey. And every person who ever became a consistently profitable trader was once exactly where you are right now. The difference between them and those who never made it is not talent. It's not luck. It's commitment to the psychological work alongside the technical work. Trading at its deepest level is not about money. Money is the scorecard. At its deepest level, trading is about the development of human character, learning to sit with uncertainty, to act from principle rather than emotion, to find stability inside yourself when the external world is unpredictable. These are not just trading skills. They are the skills of a well-lived human life. The work you do to become a better trader is, in the truest sense, the work of becoming a better human being. You are not just learning to trade, you are learning to master yourself. And that is the most worthwhile undertaking there is. If this video added value to your journey today, please like it right now. Hit the like button. It costs you nothing and helps this channel reach traders who need this message. Subscribe to Mind Over Markets if you haven't already, because every week we go deep into the psychology behind trading, the real conversations, the honest ones, the ones most channels are too afraid to have. This is the work. Don't miss it. And before you go, tell me in the comments what the single most important insight from this video was for you. What landed? What shifted? What are you going to do differently this week? I read every comment. Your reflection matters. And articulating what you've taken from this conversation is itself part of the psychological work we've been discussing. Yet thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for taking your psychological development seriously. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. The market rewards those who do. Until next time, this is Mind Over Markets. Take care of your mind. The markets will take care of the rest.